Alright, so interval and set builder notation. This is our introduction to this unit. Our objective in this video is to learn to write solutions of inequalities in interval and set builder notation. Alright guys, here's our vocabulary for this unit. We only have 2 words: interval notation, set builder notation. You may or may not be familiar with it, but write this down, read through the definition, and we're going to be setting our inequality into set builder and interval notation in this lesson. Alright, so first of all, I'm going to begin with, here's my example, x is greater than or equal to 3, and I'm going to write this inequality in interval and set builder notation. And to do that, I'm going to start with graphing this inequality. Now, one thing to remember about when you graph an inequality, if you have the greater than or equal to and the less than or equal to, you're going to have a shaded or closed dot on the number line. And if you have the greater than or less than, you're going to have an open dot. So, to create my graph, one of the first things I do is I label my arrow to my left. Numbers that go, if it keeps on going to the left, it's going on forever in that direction, so it's going on negative infinity. If I shade all the way to the right, that means my solutions go on forever in that direction, so I'm going on to positive infinity. Alright, first thing I do on my number line is I indicate my starting point, which is my 3 here. That's my solution. So 3 is my starting point. And I have, let's see, because this is or equal to, I have a closed dot at 3. That line underneath means that's 3 is part of the solution. It's included as an answer, so I have to shade it in. Now, as long as I have my inequality written in this format here, variable inequality number, my inequality is an arrow that points in the direction I shade. So my inequality points to the right, so I shade all the way over to the right. Alright, so I've got my graph, and I always do my graph first because that's the easiest way to do interval notation. Interval notation starts with, it's always start point, start point, comma, stop point. So, where does my shading start? It starts at 3, and it goes all the way over to this arrow, and that is my positive infinity. Alright, next thing I need to know is, I always am going to use, with interval notation, either a bracket or parentheses around my start and stop points. The only time I use a bracket is when I have a closed dot. So there is a closed dot at 3, so 3 has a bracket. Otherwise, I use parentheses. So there's parentheses around infinity. So what this tells me is my solutions start at the number 3 and they go on up to positive infinity. Alright, so next, set builder notation. First of all, my solutions in set builder notation are always inside these braces here. And these braces stand for the set of all real numbers. The set of all real numbers, the variable I'm using, x, then the slash, which in math represents the word such that, and then I rewrite my inequality inside, and that's my set builder notation. Alright, another example here, and this time I'm going to write the inequality x is less than negative 5 in interval in set builder notation. And just like before, I'm going to start with my graph. So first of all, I need to indicate negative 5 on my number line, and because there is no line, the or equal to, underneath my inequality, I have an open dot. That tells me that number 5 is not included as a solution. Now, since I have my inequality written in this format, variable inequality number, then my inequality is an arrow that points in the direction I shade. So from my starting point, I shade to the left all the way to my arrow. And remember, this arrow is my negative infinity, and this arrow is my positive infinity. Alright, now for my interval notation. As always, it is shadings. Where does my shading start? Where does my shading stop? Looking at the number line and going from left to right. So if I go from left to right on the number line over here at the left, my shading starts at negative infinity, comma, and it goes up to and stops at negative 5. So that is start point, comma, stop point. And I always use parentheses unless I have a closed dot, but I don't have a closed dot, so I have parentheses around my negative infinity and my negative 5. Then finally, here comes my set builder notation. Set builder notation is always inside the little squiggly brackets, and these brackets or braces say the set of all real numbers x such that, and my solution, x is less than negative 5. And there we go. There's an example of one where shading starts in negative infinity and stops at a real number. Alright, now I got one for you to try on your own, but I want to start you off with the graph. So first of all, this arrow is my negative infinity, this arrow is my positive infinity. And on this one right here, it is negative 3/4. Well, negative 3/4 is the same thing as negative 0.75. So what that means is somewhere between 0 and 1 and a little bit negative 1 and a little bit closer to negative 1, I'm going to have an open dot. That open dot there. And that's my starting point on the number line, and because I have it in the correct format, variable, inequality, number, my inequality points in the direction I shade. Now I want you to try the interval notation and set builder notation on your own. So pause the video now and attempt to get that interval and set builder notation. Alright, so here's my interval and set builder notation. Check your work with mine, and we should have gotten the same thing. One thing to take note of is because it was an open circle here at negative 3/4 that there was a parentheses. Remember, the only time I use a bracket is next to a number where there's a closed dot. Alright, so if you got that, let's go on to our next one. Alright, this one's one I'm going to let you try it on your own completely from the graph and everything. So x is less than or equal to 15. Go ahead and give it a try. Pause the video now and restart when you're ready to check your answer. Alright, here's my answer. Hopefully it's the same of yours. Notice that I have a bracket next to the 15, and that's because there's a closed dot there at 15. So if you're still not getting it, let's try one more example and practice it again, and if not, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Alright, here's the last one for you to try, and I've noticed that a lot of people have a little bit more difficulty when your shading starts in the negative infinity area, so keep that in mind while you're doing this and pause the video. Try the problem and then restart and check your answer. Alright, here's my interval and set builder notation. You'll notice since there was an open circle or an open dot at 8 that I had a parentheses. Remember, the only time you use a bracket is when you have a closed dot. And this is my set builder notation. Alright, we're going to be using these notations in all of our work from here on out whenever we solve an inequality.